came down here and went to these rural areas around Asheville. You can still go to these rural areas. You just get off the main roads and find a small road, and you're in a farm country. Well, Mrs. Vanderbilt went to this area, and she saw how desperately poor we were. I mean, we were living just like we did in Scotland and Ireland, dirt poor. And then over there, eventually starving to death. So Mrs. Vanderbilt organized home industries or cottage industries. And she helped, it was a missionary thing. There's also others who came down from New York. One of them was Mrs. Goodrich. She specifically worked with my grandmother. So in 1900, she helped give my grandmother a good start in life by making money to support the family. Mrs. Vanderbilt got my grandmother off to the start because she gave her, my grandmother was a weaver, and she made coverlets, which is, I guess, like a bedspread. Know what a coverlet is? Yeah, I've got some samples, but I don't have a full product. And Mrs. Vanderbilt, she helped them make a living and still raise the children. And my grandmother had 6 daughters, one of which was my mother, who lived to be 93 and died last November. But Edith got my grandmother started good, broke the cycle of poverty, education, etc. Got my mom started. She further broke the cycle of poverty, because we're technically in Appalachia, which runs from here all the way up into West Virginia, Kentucky, etc. And my mom got me started good, so I always to say there's a connection between all the way back to Edith Vanderbilt. It helped to get us off to where all of a sudden we had schools, we had health care, we had ways to make money. So I'm eternally grateful for that, because it might not have happened. On the right are some pebble dash buildings. These are some of the originals, and that must have been an apartment building in 1900. But look at these pebble dash. You can imagine what this looks like at Christmas. These are the original homes in that same construction technique, and this is now a historic district. If you have to build anything in here.
Who lived in these?
These are the workers.
What?
The workers at the Grove Project, at the Biltmore House. Now, there were many of them destroyed in that 1916 flood, and I'll show you about the flood. But great places here. There's a nice restaurant here on the left. The Obamas have been there as well. Obviously, the Obamas liked Asheville. They were here a lot. But yes, look straight ahead. Look at this building. If you got any insurance people or builders back here, look how high that building is. That would have survived a 1916 flood, probably. And look how high. That's almost 8 feet over the sidewalk. I'm 6 foot, a little over 6 foot. So, come on. So if you build today, you got to build up that high. Now that's going to make an oddity, but we lost about half the village or more in that 1916 flood. These are surviving buildings. That's new construction done with that same construction technique. So that tells you how high the water was. So picture that from the top of that building, top of that portion, all the way as far as you see. This whole village is underwater at least 4 to 6 feet. And if we're from Ohio or somewhere where you know how to help control Mississippi, anywhere that you control the rivers with levees, we didn't get that memo about the levees, because we have not done that. So this is a new place, but this is a great place to come down and visit. Sorry, lady. My bad. I'm gonna try to. I'm gonna pretend I'm in New York and kind of work my way in here, or Jersey. I like to use Jersey because I got family in New Jersey. I can kind of, and family in New York too. I got family in both. But if you hear, okay, I'm gonna hit the curb. I apologize. It's either that or that beautiful red car. Which one?
I'll go for the curb.
Take the curb.
There you go. All right, but this is the shop. So this is Biltmore Village. This is where George built this. He built the church. Was the second building he finished, besides the train station when his house was built. Lovely place to walk around. Lovely shops, restaurants. So here's the train station up here on the right. It's a great. Now look at the architectural detail there. Look at this train station, how it's centered.
Yes.
Okay? Looking straight across, you got a little greenery.
Yes.
It points straight to the church. Every road in Biltmore village points to the church. I think that's wonderful. Yeah, so George is a very religious person. On the right, if you want to see just one craft place, that's probably as good as any right there. It's you have to be chosen to display there. You can't just go take something in there and say, display there. Who mentioned the recreated Pebble Dash? What are you folks back there? Back there. Look at these buildings on the left. These are only 12 years old.
Oh my.
That building on the left there is 1906. Are you staying here? Okay,
We're
we
staying
make.
here, right here.
Is it nice?
Yeah, it's very nice.
Great.
Really good location.
But it's a. So we've been able to recreate that. I'm not sure those are tiles. Those are. That might. Well, it looks like a real deal there. That's pretty common in California, isn't it, because of the fires? Actually, it's required, isn't it? You don't have.
You can't have a shake roof anymore.
I didn't think so. Can you even have asphalt shingles?
Yes.
You can't have that, but you can't. And that's the preferred, I guess, isn't it?
Yes.
That way, if an ash comes down, but.
So heavy, that's.
Wondering why.
But it does take I bet it does take an amazing amount of roof structure to support that. I had a sister-in-law who just moved. She moved from Granada Hills over to Mesquite, Nevada. And her they had that type because they're right up on the hillside there in Granada Hills.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've already gotten.
you go with the spring and winter, and it'd be beautiful green.
Yeah, this is probably not.
Raised a double-edged sword, and then when it dries up, you got that much more fuel to burn.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so they actually, I think at one time they talked about putting a sprinkler system on the hillside to keep burning out.
Will they replace it even though my screen is cracked?
Oh, that sounds good. Have you seen the silly movie Richie Rich with Macaulay Culkin?
What? $100. I know, that's why I haven't gotten it.
Anybody seen Richie Rich, the movie?
Yeah.
Silly movie. That McDonald's is in it. It was filmed at Biltmore House. That McDonald's is, Macaulay Culkin was there in that McDonald's. Yeah, it's got it. So we're going to make a loop. Yeah, we're all fogged in the mountains there after we left there.
Very peculiar.
Okay, we're going to go by my old high school. This was done by Douglas Ellington, the same gentleman who built the Baptist Church, who built the county courthouse, who did the S&W. This is a historic register, this high school. It's an active school. In 1929, it cost $1 million to build. Today, that's well over $30 million. But many people have never seen a lot of colleges don't look this good. So I'll kind of go slow here. I don't think I'll get it. This is Asheville High School. It was Lee H. Edwards when I was here. My father graduated here in 1942. Well, look at that. But it is, and we've extended, isn't that amazing? Look at all the way to the top, all that attention to detail. But this is Douglas Ellington was the architect for that. Up there on the right is a good place for barbecue, and if it creates a problem, the Heart Center is right up above the hip, right above it. It's a great little Three Pigs barbecue. This is probably half the price of those other barbecue places, but nonetheless, it's wonderful. It's Southern barbecue. Up that hill, we've got a fantastic healthcare system here, because we've become a great place to retire, and that's one of the reasons is you get excellent health care. So we're heading toward downtown. Does this seem like a place you'd have typhoid fever? it doesn't quite fit to me. In 1900, we had a lot of typhoid fever in this area. We had an epidemic. We hired a bacteriologist named Dr. McCormick. He came to the area, and he quickly found that it was being spread by flies. And I told you, my ancestors were country rural people. We didn't know what screen doors and screen windows were. So Mr. McCormick, Dr. McCormick came. He said, well, we're going to put screens on the windows and doors. He gave every child a fly swatter. He went to all the stables and spread kerosene all over the straw to kill the fly larvae. So look to the left there. This was the horse garage. I just love that building. But that was the stables for the horses in Asheville, some of them. But he went to all, and then we got a handle on that. Our cases dropped from nearly 100. You don't want the typhoid fever to get out of hand, and he brought that down to 3. And the reason I mentioned Dr. McCormick is we named our minor league baseball team for him. For the flies. That's good. No, it was the we named it for him for getting control of the flies. That's good. Yeah, he helped us get control of it. Believe it or not, we were the Asheville Moonshiners. We changed names. But look to the right as we come up here. It's not on the tour, but you'll see that blue roof. That is the McCormick Field, named after Dr. McCormick. 1924. It's one of the older ones. Obviously, that roof's not original. We're associated with the Colorado Rockies. We previously with the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Baltimore Orioles. Cal Ripken Sr. was the coach here. Cal Ripken Jr. was a bat boy. Think about that, baseball fans. Russell Wilson was a second baseman here. But let's go back. Babe Ruth played here. Ty Cobb, Lou Gehrig, Roy Campanella, Jackie Robinson. So these folks played here. Most of the major names I mentioned were this was an exhibition for them. But nonetheless, we've had some great players come through here. Willie Stargell, I think Roberto Clemente came through here briefly. But this was it's a wonderful little single A professional team. They didn't play this year, of course. Kevin Costner, everybody seen Bull Durham, the movie? He hits that final home run over there at McCormick Field. Susan Sarandon, was in that movie. He was it's really wonderful. And in some of my earliest memories, 55, 56, 57, we also had a NASCAR track in there, quarter mile. If you can imagine, I remember they would race up around the warning track, then they would come up and they would race in front of the dugouts, which had guardrails in front of them. So it was a quarter mile, so it was a very short, narrow track. Ralph Earnhardt was one of the drivers there. He was the grandfather of Dale Jr. This is our, now we're back within 2 minutes. We're back on Patton Avenue. Okay. Somebody throw out a city in New York, which part? Okay, Ithaca, New York. I remember. I slept since then, didn't I?
What?
I said I slept since then. I still remembered Ithaca.
Good memory.
Ithaca's a beautiful city. It really is.
Kind of built like this city.
Yeah, steep. I remember going down, and we came into town. I don't know which direction I was traveling, but I remember you get some really steep streets. Then you get these beautiful gorges. I guess those glacier valleys are where I guess that's what formed the Finger Lakes. Was that true?
I think so.
Some of that same architecture. That was beautiful. I'd like to go back one day, but
Finger Lakes is beautiful.
Yes, they are. And I was, we just live in a great country. And thank you folks for coming. I know it's, there again, I had to step out your comfort zone. And we're grateful you did. So in Ithaca, New York, if you want to know the weather in your city, all the way back to 1866, you get out of this building ahead, see the art, you can see it on the right, straight ahead on the right. That's the National Repository for every data, every bit of data. If you look on the internet, you want to know how much rained in Tampa or Punta Gorda, you could get it right there. You can get amount of snow in Asheville. So anyway, all of that's your internet searches go, they pull up information from that building. But that's the National Wet Record Center. And my father worked when it was at the old facility up here. So that's our federal building right there. So you can't see, this is a panorama of the Blue Ridge. You can see we're fogged in today, but this is our just a fantastic view, but we're fogged out today. So I hope you folks get to stay till Saturday. That's going to be the day that we'll have some sunshine again. This is coming out of the Gulf. This is that storm that was came over the Louisiana coast. So we're not that far. Our weather patterns run from southwest to northeast. That's why so many of these big storms and cold fronts that come out of Canada that you folks in Michigan and Ohio are freezing. That Gulf influence keeps us moderated here. That's why we're good. I always say you take Minneapolis, Minnesota, and Miami, Florida. You put them in a blender, and this is the weather you get. Of course, this is a Portland day, but not always. So thank you for joining us. I call us Austin, Texas, with better views. We're Santa Fe, New Mexico, with just as many craftsmen as they've got per person. Dog City, friendliest city, beer city, Paris to the south, San Francisco to the east. Like I say, at one time we were kind of wide open. At one time, Rolling Stone magazine in the '80s called us one of the weirdest cities, but you folks have polished that out of us. However, if you go across the river, you go to an area called West Asheville. In West Asheville, you'll still see some of that bohemian life, but as a general rule, Asheville's gentrifying, etc. So our official motto is "Land of the Sky." Sorry about that, get you wet back there. We're Land of the Sky, and the local university has a motto. It says, "Levo oculus in meos montes." I lift my eyes to the hills. So my name was Bob. If you'd love, I'd love to have a review on TripAdvisor, if they would like, so inclined, but nonetheless, thank you for coming. You're a very smart and interesting group.
Don't forget to tip your driver.
That's exactly right. No, I don't do that. I figured I don't do that, but
I get it.
What's the app for then?
Yeah, we'll take it. Yeah, we'll take it. It's been good retirement
Yeah, a little bit
supplementing.
of extra.
But thank you so much, everybody.